It's all covered in today's China Truths.
In a shocking move on October 11th, Poland suddenly sealed all border crossings with Belarus, roads, railways, and even pedestrian paths. Within hours, hundreds of China-Europe freight trains were left stranded on Belarusian soil, and thousands of companies found themselves paralyzed. With no way forward, they scrambled to switch to sea transport, triggering a 30% surge in shipping costs. The blow was devastating. Nearly 90% of China-Europe trains rely on Polish transit, and now that route has been completely severed. Panic spread online. One blogger exclaimed, "Poland has closed its borders. Containers are being pulled back. Is the China-Europe connection collapsing?" The timing was no coincidence. Just one day later, Belarus and Russia kicked off massive joint military drills, prompting Warsaw to retaliate with the border shutdown. The Union Shield 2025 exercise, centered on the volatile Suwałki corridor, stirred deep fears of war. And Poland's response was swift and absolute. As more than 300 freight trains sat motionless, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi urgently reached out to his Polish counterpart, Radosław Sikorski, pleading to reopen the route. But Warsaw refused. According to Bloomberg, Sikorski demanded that Beijing pressure Moscow to halt its military provocations near Poland's eastern border. Otherwise, the blockade would remain. The message was clear: no peace, no passage. By mid-October, the entire China-Europe Railway, a network that once carried billions of euros in trade annually, had ground to a halt. Goods ordered through platforms like Made in China now face indefinite delays. Some perishable cargo is already spoiling in Belarusian depots. Logistics expert Marek Liski warned, if this continues, up to 30% of the goods will have to go by air. The cost will be brutal. Even DB Cargo, a major European freight carrier, admitted the disruption was catastrophic, but said Poland's security must come first. The numbers tell the story of a crisis. Last year, China-EU rail freight grew by over 10%, with trade value soaring to $250.7 billion. But the sudden blockade has erased that progress overnight. Warsaw insists the closure is non-negotiable, not just a political stance, but a shield against Russian aggression after repeated drone intrusions into Polish airspace. Beijing now faces a painful reality. Though alternative routes through Central Asia and Turkey technically exist, both are riddled with logistical bottlenecks. The once vaunted New Silk Road has turned into a fragmented maze of uncertainty. What was meant to symbolize China's rise in global trade has now become a stark reminder of its vulnerability, one border closure away from collapse. Who truly needs the China-Europe Railway? The answer is obvious: Beijing. For years, the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, has relied on this steel lifeline to push its overflowing industrial goods into Europe, especially after Washington's tariff war under Donald Trump. But Poland's sudden border shutdown, citing the Russia-Belarus military drills, cut that artery cleanly in half. The move shocked the world, and what came next was even bolder. Warsaw flatly rejected Beijing's diplomatic plea to reopen the line, making it clear the blockade stays, drills, or not. It was a public slap in the face for the CCP. Poland, standing at the very edge of NATO and staring directly at Russian aggression, made no secret of its stance. Unlike other EU states that still hedge between business and security, Warsaw chose strength over silence. Beijing, stunned and frustrated, quickly reverted to its old playbook, mixing threats with promises. On October 21st, Chinese state media tried to spin the crisis, boasting that if Poland refused to comply, China and Russia would move forward with a new Northern Corridor plan. At the same time, Beijing dangled strategic cooperation and economic opportunities before Poland, hollow words meant to soften the blow. But Poland didn't blink. As the crucial transit hub for nearly 90% of China-Europe freight trains, Warsaw holds the power to open or close the gate of continental trade. Beijing's talk of mutual trust was seen for what it was: propaganda wrapped in economic rhetoric. The CCP's statement that Poland's decision would threaten the stability of Europe-China trade was nothing but a thinly veiled warning. Yet, behind its diplomatic tone, China's frustration was unmistakable. It accused Poland of yielding to external influence, code for aligning too closely with Washington and NATO. Beijing's next move came swiftly. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian announced that China and Russia would accelerate the so-called Polar Silk Road, an Arctic shipping route framed as the future of global trade. The CCP claimed that melting ice was turning the Northern Sea route into a new Ice Silk Road, cutting travel time between East Asia and Europe. It was presented as a grand vision, an alternative to the land route Poland had blocked, and a way to bypass the Malacca Strait entirely. Yet behind the bravado lay desperation. Beijing was searching for a way out of a chokehold it couldn't control. Warsaw wasn't moved. For Poland, the equation was simple: stop backing Russia's war, and the border could reopen. Until then, the China-Europe Railway would remain frozen. What seemed like a logistics dispute had become a moral stand. Poland had drawn a line that Beijing didn't expect, one that turned trade into a test of conscience. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Donald Trump watched events unfold with characteristic bluntness. During his recent visit to London, he told Fox News that if Europe really wanted to end the war in Ukraine, it needed to confront the root of the problem: China's quiet support for Moscow. China is Russia's biggest oil buyer, Trump said. If Europe acts tough on China, Beijing will pressure Moscow to stop. He mocked European nations for their hypocrisy, condemning Russia in speeches while buying its oil in secret. "You can't fund the war and claim to fight for peace," he said sharply. Trump's words hit a raw nerve. Analysts noted that his remarks exposed the uncomfortable truth behind Europe's double game, demanding American protection while financing Russian aggression. And as the train sat idle on Belarusian tracks, one fact became clear: Poland had done what others feared to do. It had turned off the tap that feeds both Moscow's ambition and Beijing's power. Europe finally wakes up. The battle lines are drawn. Under relentless pressure from Washington, Europe is finally moving. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has announced a sweeping crackdown. The EU will investigate and sanction traders, petrochemical companies, and refineries, including those in China, accused of breaching the $47.60 per barrel price cap on Russian oil. According to the Wall Street Journal, this dramatic move signals that Europe wants to prove to Donald Trump it is ready to tighten the economic noose around Moscow and anyone backing it. The EU plans to target Russian banks, blacklist foreign firms aiding the Kremlin's military, and end all Russian liquefied natural gas imports by 2026. For years, Europe criticized Washington's secondary sanctions as too harsh, but now Brussels is adopting them. The latest sanctions package goes further than ever, punishing both European and foreign companies that help fund Russia's war. More than 118 ships suspected of carrying Russian crude will be banned from EU ports, while trade with Rosneft and Gazpromneft will be completely cut off. Analysts say the impact is already visible. Oil and gas revenues, once Russia's lifeline, are collapsing, dragging Moscow's economy deeper into crisis. Meanwhile, Poland's dramatic border blockade has become a turning point. By halting the China-Europe Railway, Warsaw didn't just stop a trade route, it sent a shockwave through Beijing and Brussels alike. The timing couldn't be clearer. As Europe falls in line with Trump's call to get tougher on both Russia and China, Poland has emerged as the bridge and the barricade between two worlds. It now controls the EU's most strategic trade artery, while warning that behind Russia's aggression stands its silent ally, the Chinese Communist Party. Europe's awakening, it seems, began not in Brussels, but in Warsaw. A Polish commentator named Stan, known as the most fluent Chinese speaker in Poland, summed it up best. He reminded the world that Poland has always stood at the front lines of history. It was the Polish Solidarity movement that tore down the Communist Wall in 1989, paving the way for the Soviet Union's collapse 2 years later. Poland outlawed communist organizations in 1997, and by 2016, its decommunization law banned all promotion of totalitarian ideology. To Warsaw, the danger of communism is not theoretical. It's a scar etched into memory. Stan believes this painful history has made Poland unflinchingly alert to the CCP's ambitions. That's why, across decades, every U.S. president, from Reagan to Biden, has treated Poland as a trusted ally in defending freedom. Trump, in particular, praised Warsaw's courage and even promised military support if the nation faced new threats. When asked about Taiwan, Stan was blunt. The CCP's campaign of infiltration and coercion never stopped. From media manipulation and military intimidation to buying off politicians and business elites, Beijing's tactics mirror those once used by Moscow. His message to Taiwan was clear: become a porcupine. Arm yourself, deepen alliances with democracies, and defend your youth from online propaganda and CCP influence. Analysts say Stan's voice echoes Poland's own strategy, one forged in the struggle against totalitarian rule. Both Poland and Taiwan know what it means to live under the shadow of a communist empire. Both Poland and the U.S. share an unbreakable belief in freedom. And now, by cutting the China-Europe lifeline, Poland has forced Europe to make a choice: continue feeding the regimes that threaten it, or join the side of those who fight for liberty. The era of neutrality is over. Europe can no longer stand in the middle. The path forward is clear: march with Poland and the United States, or be left behind on the wrong side of history.
Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We will keep reporting on the COVID surge in China, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to get the latest videos. And thank you for tuning in.